Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Gaurahari Das. Jai all the devotees. Glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, let me close the door because the dehydrator's on. It's making a lot of noise. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So, I've got some realizations. Flooding is like an ocean of, they're just like, grab that one, grab this one, taste that one, relish this one. Oh my goodness. It's like a feast. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. And then some stories about the miracle of Krishna consciousness as I've experienced it. I brought another little story. These things were quite obvious at the time when they happened that it was Krishna. And let me read a little something from Chaitanya Charitamrta. Hare Krishna, reading about Lord Advaita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Okay, it's midday here, and I haven't bathed. I haven't eaten anything. And it really doesn't matter at this point. I'm so absorbed in this kind of, it's like an ocean of bliss that the externals really don't enter into it, really. Hare Krishna. At some point I will bathe, at some point I will eat. Hare Krishna. But right now, I'm just relishing something so wonderful. I don't want to interrupt it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram. It's like the inside. Inside is clean. And that's really what matters. Hare Krishna. I mean, people, can bathe and put little perfumes on and be very clean outside but very dirty inside. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. I'm trying to think back, because it's like a chain reaction, you know. You think of one thing, and then that leads to another, and then that goes to another thing, and then that goes to something else. And it's like a nuclear explosion of spiritual ecstasy. One thing goes to another. And they just keep lighting up all these realizations. One goes to... It's like a little game we used to play when we were traveling back in the old days, because there's a lot of driving. And what are you going to do, you know? So we play a game, and it would, someone would say something in relationship to Krishna, and then somebody else would say something in relationship to Krishna, but we use the alphabet. Like someone would say Arjuna, and then someone else would say Balaram, and then someone else would say Kartals, I think that's with a C, and then someone else would say Devaki, and then someone else would... So we'd go through the alphabet. And we could go through the alphabet several times. And of course it was more difficult when you got to the X's and the Y's and the Z's. But whoever got stuck and couldn't think of anything in relationship to Krishna with their letter, okay, they were out of, the game. That was it. They were the loser. So in that way, the way the mind works, it goes from one thing to another. It just goes one thing to another. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. And it's very blissful, actually. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's not artificial. If you clear out enough of concerns with all the externals, then the internal thing starts. Krishna this, Krishna that. Like if you look at Bilva Mangal Thakur's poem, Govinda Madhava Damodar, you can see that's what he's doing. That's what's happening spontaneously. Is that, like in the first verse, or one of the verses, he's seeing Draupadi call out for Krishna. And he's relishing that, her mood of calling out for Krishna in her situation. And then the next verse, he remembers somebody else calling out for Krishna, maybe the fruit seller or the milk seller, who, instead of calling out milk for sale, was in so much of an ecstatic trance, she was calling out Govinda Damodar Madhava. She was supposed to be calling out milk, dal, yogurt, whatever she was selling there, but she's just calling out Govinda Damodar Madhava. And then his next verse, he remembers somebody else calling out for Krishna, and like this. So he's swimming in that ocean of ecstasy, of devotional service to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare, sitting in Vrindavan doing this. Hare Krishna, Hare, blind to the material world. And literally blind to the material world. Hare Krishna. It's not recommended that you, take your eyes out. That's not recommended. It's a little extreme. But that's what he did. He did that. He blinded himself because he was too distracted by the material things. But it's not recommended. Hare Krishna. That's 700 years ago. Bilva Mangal Thakur, India, sitting in Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. It's a different circumstance, time, place, and circumstance. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I was trying to look back. What is it that plunged me into this devotional thread, or, the thread that's carrying me from relishing one thing to another? What is it? What was it that set it in motion? And I think it was thinking about the movie about St. Francis, because recently Lolita said she hadn't seen it and she was going to watch it, and I had posted an excerpt from it to kind of illustrate something I was trying to illustrate. And then so I went and I found the movie and I posted it. It's real inexpensive. It's like a couple dollars US to rent on YouTube. It's really worth it. And in it he shows, it's very well done, the superiority of ecstatic worship, spontaneous worship of the Lord, personal, making a personal connection with Krishna, in sharp contrast to all the stuff that goes on in religion with hierarchy and management and all the stuff that's in there. So I was thinking about that movie. And then I started to think about other movies that also were glorifying they did a really, really good job of presenting the dynamic of that. Hello, Swami, Hare Krishna. The dynamic of the ecstatic devotion as opposed to is actually contaminated. It's in too much still connected to trying to control the material energy, religion. It's what is it? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So economic development, sense gratification, religiosity, and liberation. That's the highest you can go, is liberation. You don't get the devotion, ecstatic devotion. You're following that path of varnashram, dharma, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You can become a liberated state, but you don't get the ecstatic devotion, for which we're always anxious. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I was thinking about these other movies that somehow or other Krishna's inspired someone to present this truth of worship. And I was remembering one that I lived in Tennessee for a while, in Chattanooga, in the 80s, in the 90s, mid-90s. And there was another devotee there who had been initiated by Kirtanananda, and he was struggling. He'd actually become an alcoholic. Very smart man. He went on to get a master's degree and probably a PhD in psychology. But he hit a really low spot, and he started drinking, and he was kind of depressed. And but he was trying to help the other people in his AA group. And he would invite them all over, and he would try to do something. Hey, Yoga, how you doing, Yoga? Hare Krishna. He would try to do something related to spiritual love of God in the way that it was coming to him to do it, in his own struggles. So he invited all his AA people over. And I was trying to do a similar thing. I wasn't in AA, but I was doing a similar thing, inviting people that I knew to so we started to join together. We would go to his house, I would cook, everybody would take, and he would either show a movie, usually a movie, they would chant a little bit, and he'd show an appropriate movie, something that they could enjoy that would help them and help him. And then I would do a similar thing. At my house, I would invite them all over, and we would chant, and we'd get in a big circle, everyone would take turns chanting, and then we'd take a big feast. So we were doing things like that, taking turns. So one night, when I went over there, and he had all his friends there, and I had brought some of the people that I knew, he showed a movie about the life of Lord Buddha. And I don't know where, if I research it, I can probably find it, but offhand I don't remember the name of it. I'll try to find it. It was interesting, the Buddha, because Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna for a specific purpose. People were misusing the scriptures. What else is new? And especially in the sense of, killing and eating animals, which he found something in there that perform a sacrifice, chant a mantra, it's okay to eat an animal, eat flesh. So they were going for it big time. And so this was not going to help them to misuse the scripture like that, especially. So Buddha appeared to lead them away. He says, you don't need the Vedas. I am the way. You follow me. Just to get them to stop doing that. Misusing the Vedas. So in his personal life, which is an example, it's an illustration, he's an incarnation of Krishna, and he always does that by his personal example. So he went through a phase of a lot of austerity. So austere, I can't remember the details, but he led a life of austerity, denial of practically everything, okay? And then he gave that up. He saw it didn't work. He's teaching by example. He saw it didn't work. Then he took the path of enjoy like anything. Just dive into sense gratification. He took that path. He went that way. Became absorbed in sensual activities. But he was seeing that wasn't working either. He's teaching by example. And in this movie, the way they presented it, and it was very nicely done, he was confused. He tried the austerity path, and then he tried the sense gratification, and nothing was working. And he was sitting in the boat, in river, that's how they cross, in India they cross a river in boats, they still do that, with oarsmen, like a small boat, and they sit there as a passenger. And I don't know who was speaking to him like this, but someone, maybe it was his realization, I can't remember, but the realization that came to him was that, like a musical instrument, especially a stringed instrument, if the string is too tight, it can't play. It can break if it's too tight. And if it's too loose, it also doesn't play. So the string has to be moderate. It has to be tuned. Moderation. And he saw moderation was the path. Not too far into austerity, and not too far into diving headfirst into whatever. But moderation. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Stay on the path. And I'm remembering when I was 18, my father was teaching me how to drive. He was actually a great saint. I mean, to deal with me, if he wasn't a great saint to begin with, I made sure that he would become a great saint because, boy, did I torture him. Poor guy, I don't know, whatever. But, so he was teaching me how to drive. He's sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm in the driver's seat. And I'm in this controlling mentality, okay? I had to control the car, and I was very nervous. It was his car. He was sitting there. So the car would go to the left, and I'd go to the right. And then it was too far to the right, and then I'd go to the left. And then he'd go back to the right. Then he'd go to the left. Then he'd go to the right. He said, stop this. Stop it. He said, just stay in the middle of the road. Just stay in the middle. Don't go too far to the left and then compensate, go too far to the right, and then too far to the right, and then go too far to the left. You just stay in the middle of the road. Just, Hare Krishna. So if the string is too tight, it won't play, it'll break. And if it's too loose, it also won't play. You just go, blah, 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 sogged out. So just moderation. That's the message in Gita, isn't it? One who is, not disturbed by heat and cold. Happiness and distress, although they're there. What is that? That's moderation. Stay in the middle. It's not that you don't do anything, and it's not that you do too much. You just stay in the middle. Just stay in the middle. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. That's also one of my favorite, out of the Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami's. There are only a few mantras, but they take you all the way from learning how to control of the senses to ecstatic worship of Radha and Krishna at Radhakund, okay? In about, 16 or 18 verses. It takes you all the way from beginning into those verses. So I think it's verse 2. I think it's the fourth part, where he's listing the things that are for devotional service. And it reads what's favorable, and it indicates this moderation. Just to be, what's unfavorable? What's unfavorable in this little passage is to be too attached to rules and regulations for the sake of rules and regulations. That is not favorable for devotional service. And the other part of that's one coin, the flip side, is to act whimsically without regard for anything. That's also not favorable for developing love of God in ecstatic worship. Hare Krishna. So this middle path. So that kind of set me on that road there. Hare Krishna, Hare. And that's why hearing from Gaurahari Das, all these things come out. When I see the scripture now and I remember things that happened in my life, it all makes sense. It makes sense because he is traveling this middle path. And that's where the ecstatic worship of love of God is. It's in this middle path. Why? Because it's not a path of controlling. There's no controlling there. You're not trying to control. You're trying to go too far to the left, too far to the right. You're tighten the string too much and keep it too loose. You're not trying to do anything. You're just trying to stay on the path. The path that goes back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. And he's teaching this path. This is the path of spontaneous devotion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And all things, as they are helpful for that, are accepted. Rupa Goswami says, there's only two rules on this path. Accept everything favorable for devotion, and reject everything unfavorable. So at some point, the rules and regulations may be favorable. But at another point, you should put them aside and do something else that will keep you on the path of moderation. Relax that a little bit. Okay? Because that controlling tendency, and then it's rules and regulations for the sake of control, right? It's not for the sake of Krishna. On the other way, too much sense gratification is like, we have these bodies, we have to eat, we have to sleep, we got to poop, we got, there's things we have to do, all kinds of things. And if there's too much anxiety about these things, then, so we have to indulge a little bit, Sometimes I drink a little bit of coffee. Hello? Whatever. To remain peaceful. Well, the senses are not like dragging you into hell, But it's not that you just dive in and overindulge, because that's not good either. Just whatever's necessary to stay in this middle path. Whatever's favorable for Krishna consciousness, accept that. And it could be rules and regulations at some point. So remember, it was a nice little phrase. And you see, these things stick with me. Is pick it up, it's a rope. Okay? So at some point, rules and regulations, pick it up, it's a rope. But if this controlling mentality comes in, and it's rules and regulations for the sake of rules and regulations, because I can become a big controller that way. And I can control other people by shoving rules and regulations down their throat, which also comes in. Then put it down. It's a snake. Put it down. It's a snake. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So those are some of the things that we're remembering another. It started with the movie, then it went to Lord Buddha, then it went to remembering, these other related things, and then in this way, I'm swimming in this ocean of ecstasy And everything is glorifying Krishna and the path of devotional service. And, oh man, who cares about taking a bath or even eating? Who cares, you know? I'm like intoxicated, you know, this is intoxicating. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And Gaurahari is teaching those that will just listen to him. He's not asking for money. He's not asking for anything. Have you ever seen anybody that doesn't ask for money or facilities? He doesn't ask for anything. The only thing he does ask is, please, just hear this message submissively. Just hear. Hear submissively. Just hear. Hare Krishna, because he's swimming in an ocean of ecstatic love. By his teaching by example like this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, and by his association and hearing, then we also can experience what he's experiencing. In our own unique relationship with Krishna, we have our own unique set of experiences, that we're all unique individuals. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We're not imitating, but we're entering into this way of devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna which is the path to Vraj, Lila. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare, which pleases Lord Chaitanya very much. Since that's really the main reason for his appearance, is to make this path available. So Gaurahari does a very wonderful devotee. It's very, very wonderful devotee. And I was just remembering something else. See, it goes from one to the other, you know. One thing reminds you of something else. I had this experience of how people, they're not really most people, 99.99, aren't really concerned so much about the contents or the essence or the actual product. They like the wrappers. They go for the wrapper. And like you go into the supermarket, there's all these, you know, different kinds of packages, you know. But now by law, they're required to list the ingredients. Who knows what's in these packages? But who's got this shiniest, brightest package, you know, and a price, attractive price, then that's probably going to be a popular item. And I had that experience, and I had to use that, knowing that that's how it is. I used that to make profit. But it wasn't my fault. In order to sell something, it was like I had to do it, because that's what people want. They want a shiny package. So I was selling flowers on street corners. I did that in a few cities, and it was a way that I didn't have to work for anyone. I could make my own hours, do my own, you know, and I had people working for me, you know. But our work environment was it wasn't, it was different. Hare Krishna. So I noticed that when I made the little bouquets with the roses and the lilies and the whatever we put in there, chrysanthemums, the same thing you see now. See, then there wasn't any of this in the supermarkets. They didn't have floral sections in the supermarkets when we did this, because we were doing this in the mid-90s, early 90s. And so we really didn't have any competition except for the expensive florists. So we really had a good thing going here. If people wanted flowers, they had to go to a florist and pay an arm and a leg, right? And here we were on a street corner letting them fly, you know, for cheap. So what I did was I'd go to the wholesalers, who were the ones that used to supply the florists, and I would buy the flowers that the retailers wouldn't buy. The flower shops wouldn't buy these flowers, because when they bought flowers, it had to sit in their cooler for a while. They had to buy, like, you know, green bananas. They couldn't buy flowers that were already, you know, blossoming. They had to buy them when they were, like, still in the bud stage, because they had to keep them in their coolers. and wait for customers to come or wait for orders to come in. Hey, but I was out in the street, okay? Me, same day sales. So I would buy like the flowers that were like bananas with brown spots on them. They got to go that day, right? They're getting soft, they're ripe. And I would go out in the street with them. And, I would just sell out, as the day wore on, the prices would get cheaper and cheaper. Because I said, so I could get very inexpensively roses and lilies and tulips, very inexpensive. And then I would go out on the street. But I noticed that the people were, if I wrapped them in like shiny foil little floral sleeves, they'd put them inside these little bouquets. If they were really shiny or metallic, or they had funny faces on them, or balloons or whatever on the little wrapper, instead of just like, a green floral wrapper, if they had like fancy wrappers, the people really didn't care that the flowers were kind of like bananas with spots on them, So I had to do that, that's what I did. And I saw that they were buying the wrappers. They really weren't looking so much at what was inside. Well, what's a flower? Okay, there's a flower in there. Okay, give me that wrapper over there. And we did quite well with that. Because they were buying the wrappers, the package. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada knew that. See, that reminded me of something with Prabhupada. Prabhupada knew that. They were sitting in Mayapur. They hadn't developed a community at all. It was a rice field, and I think there was one building there. And Prabhupada was sitting in kind of like a little hut that he was staying in. Very unimpressive, but simple and functional, but very unimpressive. And some of his managerial disciples were sitting with him. And he explained that in order to attract people, we have to make a big show. We're sitting here, we're perfectly happy chanting Hare Krishna here in our little hut in Mayapur. He said, but bring them big display. So we have to build a big temple so they will come. We have to make a big show because the people won't come. So we have to have a shiny wrapper. And that's what Prabhupada did. He did like that. He made arrangements like that. He gave orders like that, instructions like that. He oversaw making these big shiny wrappers. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And that's glorious. It's totally glorious. It's inconceivable he could do that, in his late 70s, with the different physical conditions he had, the heart attacks, the I think he had some diabetes, all kinds of stuff. It was an old body. Traveled around the world 13 times. Just totally amazing. Published all those books. Thousands and thousands of disciples. It was amazing. A miracle. Nobody, ordinary person could do like that. Hare Krishna, Krishna's arrangement. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then he disappeared. And things got really interesting because the focus was on the shiny wrappers, the big buildings, the big display. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But where's the substance? What's in the shiny wrappers? What's the purpose of it all? What's the goal? For that, the devotees need some guidance. And Krishna's making the arrangement. And that's why Srila Gaurahari is showing the substance. Hare Krishna, Krishna, teaching the ecstatic worship of the Lord. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. It's very easy for people to get caught up in the externals, the wrappers, the packaging. And because that's the case, it's possible for unscrupulous people to contaminate the contents. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Prabhupada said nothing can stop this movement from the outside. He said, but from the inside. If it starts rotting from the inside, if it starts getting choked out on the inside, it becomes foul on the inside. And he also said, it doesn't have to be ISKCON. He said, if ISKCON doesn't work, it becomes foul or rotten like that on the inside, contaminated on the inside, even with all the shiny wrappers. Lord Chaitanya will make another arrangement. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Stay on the path. Not too far to the left, not too far to the right. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. And that's what the Acharya teaches. How to, sometimes you have to go to the left a little bit. Sometimes you have to go to the right. The Acharya is on the path. He's on the middle path of moderation. Not fanaticism, but moderation. He knows how to use everything in Krishna's service as it's needed. He knows how to accept everything favorable and reject everything unfavorable. And he stays on the path. And when he speaks, purity of his message. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Illuminates the path for others. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I mean, this has been going on all morning. You see why I'm not even bothering to, forget the bath, I don't care. Forget eating. It's like, oh man, just let me relish this, this flood of mercy, Just let me, let me taste it. Let me bask in it. Let me relish it. Don't bother me with other stuff. It's like, it's like being drugged out, Oh, who cares, Hare Krishna. Wow, so fortunate that my life is arranged in such a way now that I can indulge in these ecstatic sessions. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So yesterday I was thinking of something that happened, a little story that it really shows how, I was just saying, I was saying how it's always been Krishna. It will always be Krishna. It was Krishna then, it'll be Krishna then, and it's Krishna now. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. There's a few unusual incidents that really, really bring that to my attention. That, yes, Krishna really is there for his devotees. Like when Draupadi was trying to be disrobed in front of all the soldiers and all the Kshatriyas in the great assembly. I mean, it was horrific, absolutely horrific. She was the queen of the Pandavas. And they were trying to disrobe her. And at first, she tried to hold on to her clothing because it's a terrible thing. And then she was trying to surrender, trying to hold on, and It was just a horrible situation. Finally, she realized she was no match for these people. They were just too physically strong for her. And she just put her hands in the air. Surrendered to Krishna. My Lord. And he supplied unlimited cloth. They actually wore themselves out trying to remove the cloth. And there was this huge mountain of cloth. And there was no end to the protection of Krishna and clothing. So, Mahabharata is really dry. Wherever Krishna steps in Mahabharata, it's really far out. Krishna. So I was thinking, it's not really, on the same level. Come on, give me a break. I'm not Draupadi. But there was an instance where I could understand how Krishna does protect his devotee. I mean, there have been several. I shouldn't be alive. Seriously, I really shouldn't be in this body now. I should have been forced out of this body many times. They say the Lord protects fools and simpletons, and he protects saints. Well, I'm not a saint, so I'm in that fool and simpleton category. And he really, Krishna. So this was, I'm going to read a little from Chaitanya Charitamrta by his story. Has been floating around, so here it comes. Prabhupada was on the planet, okay? This is in the early 70s. And I was in the Boston Temple. And it was Brahmacharini. I was in my early 20s. And I was being kept fully engaged. I had a problem where I couldn't really talk with other people. I had no social skills at all. I still don't, but I really didn't have any then at all. Like I didn't know how to talk to people. I don't know, maybe I'm slightly autistic, who knows? Who cares? Anyway, I couldn't talk to people. And so they just kept me fully engaged. From morning to night, do this, do this, do this. And I was appreciating, okay, I'll do this, okay, I'll do that, all right, do this. So part of the service was, there was no money in the temple. No one was working, there were no householders. Everyone was just like more or less in their late teens or early 20s, had no money, nothing. And so for decorating the deities, there were 3 altars. Radha Krishna was there, and Gaurahari and Jagannath, and they were being worshipped, like 6 offerings a day. At one point we were doing 6 kirtans a day because we didn't have anything else to do. And so they needed flowers. And my service was, this wasn't the Boston Temple now, it was out in not really the suburbs, but on the outskirts of Boston, where there were houses. And some houses had little yards, and they were growing flowers and things. So I had a wheelbarrow. And I would go to different parts of that neighborhood every day, a different part, with the wheelbarrow. And we were starting to print the Back to Godheads. I think they were still in black and white. It was maybe like issue number 2. And so I had these little black and white magazines. And I had, sometimes I would go out with cookies or brownies or sweets from the deity in a little basket. And I had the wheelbarrow and some scissors. And I would knock on doors in the sari with the tilak and the bead bag and the wheelbarrow and the magazines and the cookies, okay? Knock, knock, knock. Hi, Hare Krishna. Could we have some of your flowers? We want to offer them to the Lord. We have a little temple here, a little church kind of thing here. Could we have some of And they loved it. They would come out of the house. They'd get their own scissors, and they'd start cutting. I'd have roses. I'd have chrysanthemums. I'd have zinnias. I mean, they would load that wheelbarrow up. Seriously. It was such a wonderful service. He goes out, and he gives them the little magazine and the cookies. And that was Hare Krishna. And then, I'd go back to the temple, and there was a little room at the end of the hall. It was a storage room. It had a window in it, and they had put a little shelf there, a little table, and I would polish all the vases. There were 13 brass vases. One big one that went behind Radha Krishna, and then and there were 6 medium-sized ones, that one on each side, one on each side, one on each side, and then there was a bunch of smaller and medium ones. So there were 13 vases, and I would polish them with brasso every day, and then I'd make the arrangements from the flowers that we got. We'd get in season, whatever was in season, irises, lilacs, whatever was in season. We'd have vines. Those deities really loved flowers, because later on, when they moved into the city, the devotees had a flower business where they'd go out in the street and sell flowers that they'd buy. But this was just going through the neighborhood like that. Man, that was sweet. Oh man, that was so sweet. So one day I was walking with my wheelbarrow and my cookies and like that, and I passed by, in this part of the neighborhood, it was an empty lot. It looked like it wasn't just an empty lot, it looked like a huge area, empty area, where nothing had been built and all the weeds were growing up. And there were some small sunflowers growing in that field, like weeds. They weren't the big ones, they were like small sunflowers. I was like, wow, let me go get those sunflowers. It was just an empty field. So I went into the field and I was collecting the sunflowers, and one of the houses that bordered the field had a dog, a big German shepherd. And he was chained up with a big thick chain on their porch. It wasn't really a porch, it was just a landing. Like before you go in the back door, there was a landing there, and the dog was chained up on the landing. And he didn't like me being there, this big German shepherd. But he was on a chain. I thought, not going to worry about him. And I kept cutting the flowers. And he was getting angrier and angrier. He was getting furious that he did not like me being there. And he gave a lunge and he broke the chain. I'm standing there completely helpless. There wasn't a stick, nothing in the field. I didn't know what to do. And this dog, like a train, okay, is charging. I mean, with growling, with the teeth and the eyes, and he was going to kill me. That was his, I got to kill this, whatever it is. He was going to kill me. I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay, Krishna. I put my hand in my bead bag, and I just was chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. I was shaking like a leaf. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. He's going to bite me. He's going to bite me. He got to me, and he lunged. And he took a big bite out of my bead bag. I was like, wow. And then he just stood there looking at me like, I was like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. There were some teenage boys walking on the sidewalk. It's quite a ways away. It was a big field. They saw what happened. They came running over and chased the dog away. Thank you, Krishna. And then the owner came out of the back door and was horrified. He called the dog. He apologized. He felt terrible. The dog had attacked me like that. But I was like, Krishna. Man, you don't forget something like that. It was Krishna. Now, the dog, it was a big German shepherd. He may have had some police training. He may have been like a police dog or had some training or something. And when he saw the bead bag, he might have thought it was a gun. I mean, that's possible. But that's what happened. He took a big bite out of the bead bag. Hare Krishna. He got a mouthful of japa the hard way. So, it's like, Krishna, you can see how Krishna is there. He protects his devotee, And it's a great life, Actually, Prabhupada said something kind of unusual. He said, I mean, this is kind of an unusual thing. Probably said a lot of unusual, but this is like really unusual. He said, you know, even if there isn't any Krishna, isn't this a wonderful way to live? Oh my God. Oh my God. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Whoa. Hare Krishna. Ah, Krishna. Okay, so there's some realizations. There's a weird story. Now, here's Chaitanya Charitamrta. Krishnadas Kaviraj. And it's dark. I gotta put the light on. I can't see. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Haribo, Mahasina, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Govinda. Just having fun. Hare Krishna. It's too cold to sit on the porch. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so this is, it's still dark. A little bit lighter. Okay, so we're reading Chaitanya Charitamrta, Adi Lila, Chapter 6, Advaita Charya. Okay, text 41. To maintain the proper etiquette. Oh, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai Gaurahari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai all the devotees, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together and gives us a taste of the nectar for which we are always anxious. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay. To maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Shri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Okay, so Advaita Acharya is an expansion of Lord Chaitanya as a servant, as a devotee, and he serves in the way that Mahavishnu serves. He facilitates the Lord for what the Lord needs to do, and he's an incarnation of Mahavishnu who has expanded all the universes. Okay? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And we read previously that just as Mahavishnu expands all the universes, Advaita Acharya expands the bhakti, the devotional service. And Lord Chaitanya says here, he is proper etiquette for the principles of religion. Advaita Acharya is older, and he's a godbrother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master. See, this is to show the etiquette. He's teaching by example. You have to have a spiritual master. So Ishwar Puri is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's initiating guru to show the way you do it. And his godbrother is Advaita Acharya. We know of 3 disciples that took initiation from Madhavendra Puri, okay? Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, coming from Madhavacharya, was introducing this bhakti devotion in this line. And so there's 3 disciples that we know of. There's Ishwar Puri, who was the initiating guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's Advaita Acharya, who is actually an incarnation of Mahavishnu and who is in a relationship of service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the etiquette is he's a godbrother of Chaitanya's spiritual master. So the Lord is bowing down. It's a matter of etiquette. But it's more than etiquette. The Lord loves his servants. and he's acting as a devotee himself. So it's very, very wonderful. Hare Krishna. And then there's the guy that missed the whole thing, the guy that missed the boat, and he's teaching what not to do, Ramachandra Puri. He missed the boat, okay? He didn't get it. So you got those three. He was an impersonalist and never did develop taste for, at least not in that lifetime, for devotional service. Kind of like Dhritarashtra in the Mahabharata, who he never really did develop any kind of ecstatic love for Krishna or Krishna's devotees, and unfortunately played the part of causing problems for the Pandavas, who were very, very dear to Lord Krishna. And he, by supporting his son, he was complicit in causing so many problems for the devotees, indirectly. And so he did not achieve the ecstatic worship, but he did achieve liberation. He became a Mayavadi in that life. So he achieved Mayavadi liberation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So Ramachandra Puri is kind of like that, in that sense. And he offended the devotees pretty badly too. He would do some things that were really pretty obnoxious. Not just the Lord, but also the devotees. He just didn't get it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, text 42. Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks of himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So you can serve the Lord by being, in terms of etiquette, his superior, right? In terms of etiquette, you're his superior, but actually you think of yourself as his servant. Hare Krishna. But you're superior, but you're his servant. Krishna. And it's like Mother Yasoda, right? She's Krishna's superior, she's his mother, and she has to chastise him from time to time and tell him what to do. Come in now, it's time to eat. Stop playing out there with your friends. What do you think you are, a street boy? Come in here and eat. Today's your birthday. So she tells him what to do, orders him around. She's his superior. But she thinks of herself as his servant. She's serving him like that, his mother. And she loves him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay. He thinks of himself as Lord Chaitanya's servant. And then Prabhupada quotes a lot of different verses to kind of support that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Wow, yeah, wow, Krishna, yeah. Prabhupada talks about the Vrindavan Lila, Raj Lila. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram. Remembering your childhood pastimes at Vrindavan is better than merging into impersonal Brahman. He quotes those verses. Yeah, Krishna. Yeah. Okay, Krishna. Okay, text 43. Advaita Acharya. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, you are servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I wish I could see that. Oh, there's some light in here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. As Bengali, he says, Krishna dasa hao, jive upadesha kare. Hare Krishna. You are servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 44. The conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. I just remember something here. I want to share it. I don't want to get too far off point, but I do want to share this. I was just getting this realization that something that happened like in the 60s, right, when I was very young and I hadn't found Krishna yet, and I was trying to inquire from people, does anybody know anything? I could see nobody really knew anything. And I was like, somebody must know something about what the world is about, who I am, what's going on, how can I be happy in life? The only thing that's happening here is I'm getting tossed. I'm getting tossed this way, I'm getting tossed that way. I have no shelter. I'm getting torn apart in this ocean of material energy. Somebody must know something. And I started inquiring from different people. I was a teenager. And I inquired from a professor that I had some respect for. He taught classical Greek. He told me he didn't know anything. He couldn't help me. And that sometimes he asks himself the same question and he feels like killing himself because he doesn't know the answer. Okay, thanks. We're not going there. He doesn't know. And then, my parents didn't know. They told me they didn't know. I asked them. They said, we don't know. I said, we don't know. Everyone has to find it for themselves. We can't help you with that. We just don't know. You just have to find it. Whatever it is. We don't know. Good luck. We love you and good luck. Great. And then, so I was approaching all these different people, And then I even thought, well, maybe I can do it myself. I tried meditating. I thought, well, it was the drug craze then, and everyone was claiming enlightenment with, LSD and all that stuff. Well, let me try that. Nobody knows anything. Maybe it's the drug is here to help. And I tried taking that, and that didn't work. I mean, something came out of all these endeavors. There's no doubt about that. But it still wasn't getting it. And one of the people that I approached was, I was raised in the Jewish culture, okay? It's really just a social thing. It's like, at least for ladies and women, at that time, they had no access to, if there is knowledge in the Jewish culture, it wasn't available to a woman. It just, if you were a girl, forget it. It's just for the boys. So, like, I would go to they had parents were like, one of the first 10 families to move into this area outside Boston, and they got together and pooled their resources and rented a little building and made it into a small temple so they could have regular worship there. And I would walk all the way. It was like 2 or 3 miles from our house on a Saturday morning to go and try and worship. And it was just a bunch of old men in there going, and they doven, So the dovening would be going on in there, probably something like japa, maybe. And I would go in. I was like 14, and they just wanted to grope me. I just forget it. Get me out of here. I got enough problems. I don't need a bunch of old men, with hands everywhere. Get away. Get out. So I couldn't go there. There was no shelter, Oh, that way. Hare Krishna. So I approached the spiritual leader of the community, the rabbi, and I was going to approach him, and it was late at night. I was frantic. I was desperate. I said, I'm approaching all these people. Someone must know something. This is before Prabhupada. Okay. And I called on the phone, and I got the babysitter. Called his house. It was early evening, 6 o'clock, something like that. And the babysitter said, oh, Rabbi so-and-so, he's not here. He and his wife went to the movies tonight. They're watching the Planet of the Apes. And somehow it didn't sit well with me that if he was actually a spiritual leader, like, it just didn't work for what I needed at the time. It didn't make sense to me. I need something really powerful. I need something really, really potent. Somebody that can speak to me like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I hadn't found Jesus yet, I hadn't found anything. I was just looking. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So then I continued doing this and doing that, and ended up in an institution because I wouldn't talk to anybody till I got some answers, and it just, it was intense. And I did get answers, I had a struggle to get those answers, man. I had just like pulling teeth. Hare Krishna, but I was reading, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates. Maybe they knew something. I was reading mythology. Maybe they know something. I was reading, all this stuff, I was reading the Bible, and I didn't have any access. It didn't click with me yet. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So after, a few years of like more dead than alive, trying to find the truth, the path, I went back, and there was a new rabbi, and he was a little more upstanding. He wasn't the movie-going type. He was a little more kind of preachy, trying to engage people. He was a little more high-class type person. So I went back and I approached him. And I asked, I said, is there anybody that can help me? And he told me point blank. He said, no. He said, you don't need a spiritual master. You don't need a teacher. Just follow the rules and read the books. Read the books and follow the rules. It's all in there. You don't need anyone to teach you anything. Just read the book, the Old Testament, the Torah, and the Talmud, and all that, and follow the rules. That's all you need to do. Don't get a teacher. So he was acting as a teacher by telling me that, okay? I mean, it's... So that's what it was. That was his teaching. Just follow the book and read the rules. I mean, read the book and follow the rules. Do we see tendencies of that in our movement? Do we see anything like that? Do we see remnants of that in our movement? You don't need a living guru. Just follow the rules and read the books. Does anyone see any problem with that? Does it look like a Jewish thing? Anyone see it? Hello? Hello? The light's on. Is anybody home? Hey, Krishna! What a life. What a life, man. I tell you, when that light turns on and you get that middle path, the path of spontaneous devotion, where you're not trying to control things with too many rules and regulations and feeling guilty and bad and can't do this and can't do that, or just indulging and all sogged out and like, when you're not on either of those and you're just like in the middle, what a life. What a life. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And that's, Gaurahari is teaching that by living it and making it available. And that's the spiritual master. Everything's in Krishna and everything's in Lord Chaitanya, all the incarnations. So Buddha is also within Lord Chaitanya. And the spiritual master is as good as Krishna. So everything is within the spiritual master. If he's a bona fide spiritual master. He's not like a rabbi who's teaching. You don't need a teacher. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. He's teaching me, telling me, instructing me that I don't need a teacher. Hello? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So there's so many of the, like the Prabhupada disciples who are saying, they're teaching that you don't need a teacher. That's what they're teaching, just like that rabbi. You don't need a teacher. Just read the books and follow the rules. You'll be okay. But he's a teacher because he's teaching that. There's different kinds of spiritual masters. The initiating spiritual master and the instructing spiritual master, they're on the same level spiritually. They're just a little different function, practically speaking. The initiator, the instructing spiritual master, keeps them on the path. Okay? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So to say you don't need a spiritual master, just read the books and follow the rules. No. That's a false teaching. That's a misleading teaching. And Prabhupada said, the only way Lord Chaitanya's movement can be impeded is from within. With what? False teachings. Contaminated teachings. And what's the mission of the Acharya? Is to keep the teachings pure and on the actual path. Does that make sense to anyone? Is anyone listening? Does anyone have enough brain substance? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I didn't take a bath. Yeah, it's already the afternoon. Yeah, I haven't eaten anything. I don't want to interrupt this flow, okay? There's a flow of ecstasy, of nectar, of realizations, I don't want to interrupt it. I'm not going to die if I don't take a bath right now. I'm already bathing. I'm bathing in the ocean of nectar. You know? What's the use of putting a bunch of old flowers inside a shiny wrapper? Or buying a package in the supermarket with a pretty box and it's got all crap inside? Who cares? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. What's inside? Hello? What's inside? Anyway, that's a little bit of a sidetrack from the verse, but I couldn't help myself. I was swept away. It's Krishna's fault. Oh! These verses are so nice. Okay, so here's the next verse. Okay, well, let's go back and read that verse again. 44. The conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. Hare Krishna. 45. Lord Advaita, he says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted in the emotion of servitude. Nowhere else is there such joy that is tasted in the emotion, in the emotion, in the emotion, in the emotion, in the emotion. In the emotion of servitude. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Ah. Krishna. And that emotion is available on the middle path. There's too much controlling of rules and regulations. Can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. It's like the string pulled too tight on the musical instrument. It can't, and it will snap. Or follow, just doing whatever you want to do, just because you want to do it, like a dog or an animal, completely absorbed in sensual whatever, dulled over like that. What to speak of the karmic reactions that come from that kind of activity. Oh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's like the string strung too loose. It won't make a sound. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Certainly not music. The music is in the middle path. The emotions. Now, music is very close to the emotions, very close to the soul. Hearing music, actually, emotions are produced just by hearing different types of music. It's very close to the soul. You have to stay in the middle path. That's where the music is. That's where the emotions are. Not controlling. And, there's controlling in the sense gratification too, as a controlling mentality. You have to do a lot of controlling to get what you want, essentially. You got to control this person, you got to control that. There's a lot of controlling that goes on the unrestricted or wild and frivolous cuckoo path. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Yeah. Yeah, it's like eating, It's not like you don't eat anything at all, right? Too tight, string's going to snap. Or you just eat whatever you want to eat and get sick and fat and blah, blah. No, both ways are not going to help. But you eat for Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Relish. Everything can be relished for Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Taste for Krishna. Like Prabhupada said, the alcoholic, the taste he's looking for when he's drinking is Krishna. So, if you want to help someone like that, who's addicted to alcohol or other things, you can tell them, help them, by telling them the taste they're looking for is Krishna. And then pretty soon, the thing itself, it doesn't matter, because the taste is Krishna, because that's what they're looking for. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare. And that keeps you on the middle path, looking for that taste of Krishna. That keeps you on the middle path. Not too much this way, not too much that way. Stay on the middle path. Follow that taste. And that's connected to emotion. That's the taste, that's the joy. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted. Tasted. In this what? Emotion of servitude. I'm sitting here talking because I need to hear. Where am I going to hear these things? Well, I hear from Gaurahari Das, and I hear from the devotees who are following Gaurahari Das, and I hear this message. So I'm speaking it because I want to hear it. I like to hear it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Hare Bol. And then Krishnadas develops this theme, he says, of tasting is the most beloved goddess of fortune resides on the chest of Sri Krishna, yet she too, earnestly praying, begs for the joy of service at his feet. She resides on the chest of the Lord, but she earnestly begs for service at his feet. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I read earlier that she was desiring to enter Vraj and taste what the gopis taste. And the Lord told her it's not she was going to do it by austerities. You know, can't do this, can't do that, you know, that program. And he said, it's not possible like that. He said, I can't give you that. It's not possible. That's not how it's achieved. But I can give you a place on my chest. And so she resides there as a golden line. As we said, you can reside on my chest as a golden line. So she resides with the Lord on his chest, eternally, Lord Krishna. But she's hankering for service at his feet. Because that's where the pastimes are, at the feet. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. You know, the chest, I don't know about someone, but the meditating on the different parts of the Lord's transcendental body, at least like the universal form, is the arms and legs and chest are where the Kshatriyas and the administrators reside. They're the arms and the chest of the universal form is the Kshatriyas, the kings, the leaders and rulers, like that. So she can stay there. She can't attain the lotus feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, where there's the real wealth of taste and emotions is at the feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 47. All the associates of Lord Krishna, such as Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Shuka, and Sanatan, are very much pleased in the sentiment of servitude. I'm going to stop here. I get like a little headache. Maybe I need to take a bath and eat something. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Well, I'm just going on and on. I'll be honest with you. You know, before I sit down in front of the camera, I've been doing this all morning without the camera. I've been going on and on and on without the camera. I says, let me just turn the camera on, and I'll go on and on and on with the camera. And, you know, if someone can see, or, you know, maybe it will help someone, you know, to try to enter into what's going on in the movement now. The actual movement, under the guidance and direction of Gaurahari Das. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So he's on 2-3 times a day. His followers and disciples also go on. And he just recommends, all he asks is that you listen. All he asks is that you listen. And Hare Krishna. So, I'm trying to see. There it is. Okay. Whew. Krishna. What next? Hare Krishna. Too much fun.